It hasn't gone live yet. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of where we talk about everything to do with sales, the soft and the system side to sales, right? And in particular, today, myself and Jason are going to talk about building a sales strategy. It's that time of year when we need to start thinking about the year oncoming, 2022 in this case. And what are we going to do over the next 6 weeks to ensure we start in January in a positive, confident note to ensure we can get the year off to a good start? So, with that, welcome, Jason. Welcome
Thank you.
to this episode. And being the soft person, the soft expert in this relationship, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, where do you see, like, what do you think when you start building a sales strategy with your clients? What is the first thing that you like to get moving on with them to ensure they get in the right frame of mind?
I think it's really uncovering what they want, uncovering what success looks like. Before we go into the nitty gritty with them, it's really finding out their need, finding out their vertical, finding out what success actually means to them, and then looking at the direction and also understanding how they sell. What are they actually doing right now? Am I being brought in a reactive or being a proactive way? And what I mean by that, there's two ways of thought. If it's a reactive way, there's obviously something that's gone wrong. There's something that's not working quite well. They've either lost a big account, or they've lost their top salespeople, or I don't know, they're from last year to this year, they're not performing in the best way. So that's a reactive moment. And we have to look at all areas there. But if it's a proactive way, the proactive way that they want to improve on what they're doing now, they're already hitting targets, they're already hitting the ground running, their salespeople and their sales professionals are doing really well, but they want to start to improve what they're doing. And they want to give make their people more accountable. So make them want to learn a little bit more about what they do so they can improve on their systems. But not only that, they want to improve. So that's the proactive approach. They really want to do it. Everyone's behind it. Everyone's behind it. But majority, and as you know, it's reactive. It's something's gone wrong. Something's not quite right. They need your help, or they need my help, or they need a combination of our helps. But the way I always look at things, and hopefully you might agree with this, I don't think training is enough. I really don't think you can put them on a course for a day and then nothing, and they go back and they're a little bit motivated, and then they go, "Yep, I understand this, understand that." But I don't think they've actually really got it until they've actually had an implementation of a strategy. But I think there needs to be a bit more backup behind that. They need to have coaching behind that. I always believe that the strategy, once that's been cemented and you find out the need and you've looked at the CRM and you've looked at all areas of their business and how that business works and operate, then you speak to the salespeople one-on-one to find out what the challenges are before you actually going into looking at designing a fix or getting them all in the landscape. But once you do all of that, I'm always intrigued about a habit and how they can maintain a habit. Because as you know, Shay, or Dr. Shay, should I put yourself in there?
Dr. Future State, I might have you
Dr.
know.
Future State. Yeah, sorry, but I should call you that from now on. Dr. Future State. And I always believe that something else afterwards. There's got to be a path and there's got to be a strategy behind that. And talking about that, you're an expert in this area. And I love the way you think from that point of view. You break things down, you break that strategy down. So what is it? What are some ideas behind that? What can we do to, especially for 2022? Now people are starting to think it's November now, and hopefully a lot of, obviously, the bigger organizations have thought about this, but the small to medium-sized enterprises, 2022 is upon us, and things are changing as we speak.
Yeah, no,
So what
agreed.
would you
And
say?
yeah, well, Jason, there's a few things, and I think you sort of touched on them in what you said. I totally agree with what you said, by the way. Um, like what in terms of the reactive piece, before I go into the strategy piece, that's something I see a lot, and I see it. The biggest issue I see in reactive is that when they think, well, whatever their strategy was last year, and whatever figures actually they did last year, sort of say month on month for 2020 in this case, they just add 5% onto let's go for 5% more or 10%, whatever. They have all these great aspirations, right? But they don't do anything then to try and predict it. They just assume the market is going to be the same. They're going to work that 5% or 10% harder to get there. But that's not the way the world works, Jason. And that's one of the biggest issues I see
Yeah.
when people tell me their sales strategy isn't working, because and then I go and look into it, they don't have one. It's just they don't want to do
No.
10% better than the previous year. So that's the first thing I want to fix. And then going into what you just said there, just a little bit deeper, is about understanding the current position. You know, you
Yeah.
talked about then, well, what have they done well so far this year? So how can we
Mm.
bottle that? Like, what are the things that we absolutely want to take into next year with us, right? So I want to learn these things. I also want to learn the things that like hindered them or held them back, or the issues internally and with the marketplace. So we do a complete current state analysis, right? That's the first thing. And that's part of a framework I would build with my clients. Build that framework. And that first part
Yeah.
is the current state analysis. And then we start talking about of that, what do we want to change of where we are today? That's number one. And then the number two part is, well, what else do we want to achieve? And
Yeah.
how are we going to do that? And even like one of the big things, like going back to this 10%, a lot of that comes from the top management, the
It does. Yeah.
directors, the C-suite, and the manager. The sales manager just comes in and says, sorry, we've been told we have to do 10% more sales next year. And that's just fact, right? And everybody starts rushing around going, how the hell are we going to do this? So
Yeah.
I end up working with them to build a really, like as you said, keep going down to the core ground activities. What does that actually mean? Because
Yeah.
Jason, when I ask people what does 10% actually mean, the answer is always, well, we need to get 10% more sales. And I go, well, does it really mean 10% more sales? You know, and I go, like, and they go, what do you mean? And I said, well, first of all, yes, that's probably one aspect of it. We want to get 10% more, but if you like, a company really cares not about sales numbers and customers, they care about profit margins. So are they really talking
Exactly.
about 10% more profit margin first and foremost? So we clarify that. But some people
Mm.
do want 10% more because they want to scale their business. They want to get market reach and domination, for example. But in a lot of cases, it's we need 10% more profits. So I go, well, let's break that down. How else can we get 10% more profits? And a part of
Because it's
that,
not only, I was going to say, it's not only by, I think if you're going for an evaluation and you're a startup, you want the numbers. So that could be the 10%. But you're absolutely right, because what else is there out there? Is it upselling? Is it cross-selling? Is there anything else that is out there that we already have that we can work on with our clients with to upscale it a little bit more?
absolutely, Jason. And I always say there's probably about 5 things in every marketplace that you can influence, right?
Yeah.
One is upselling, one is cross-selling, and then the other one is could be, can we reduce our cost price by 10%? Can we increase our value, like not only our cost price, but what about if we increase our product price or service price by 10%, but offer 40% more value, you know? And then also, yes, do we need to knock on 10% more doors, you know?
Mm.
So there's a number of different drivers. And if it's like, if you're talking about, like, if you do sales once a month, just to keep the analogy or illustration simple, can you add another 10% more sales cycles into
Yeah.
the equation by doing discounts 3 or 4 times a year? And if you forget about the 10%, if you got 2% in all of one of them, they would compound to 10%. So it's also, once you start breaking it down, then these salespeople go, well, Joe, this is more achievable. Now I can visualize it. And they get more motivated to do it, because they're not just looking at, oh, we need to knock on 10% more doors and hope for the best, because they've already saturated the marketplace.
I think it's like anything. Once you see the overall thing, like it's 10% on 500,000 a year as an example, that's a considerable amount. That's a lot of money. What am I going to do with that? But once you have to start to break things down a little bit, like the 10% is not going to change according to the CEO or the MD or the senior vice president or whoever it might be up there, because that's what they want to achieve. And automatically you go into that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism in our heads. As we all know, you start to panic. But as you say, we really need to start breaking that down and chunking the pictures down to make it more manageable, and breaking out that process of going to, well, what can we do as a collective within the organization, as all the salespeople together? How can we work together to make sure that we all overcome this? And as you said, and you pinpointed that down, what did we do really well this year? What were the really good things that we did well? Who can we learn from within the organization, whether it's marketing, accounts? Get them all into the room, because I don't think there's anything like a bad idea. It could be a terrible idea. I'm only kidding that. But there could be other things that we could do there that we could actually influence and help collaborate with our clients in a better way. And I think sometimes we're all for this. How many times do we speak to our clients? Is there touch points along the way? Do we just sell to them and then we're gone and never speak to them again? People like themselves. And I think we might have spoken about this before. We hide sometimes behind technology, and it's great to have it. But, where's that human connection? Okay, it's good to send an email, but it might be good to do a personalized catch up any time, because all of those things change within the other people's organizations all the time. We have tuned in from Colorado, Alex Chambers. Hello,
Alex and Juliet. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
We have Juliet. Good afternoon. We're in the early evening there, so we really appreciate that, Chase. I'm always curious by that, but I'm always curious about change, because 10%, as you say, is a change. How do we help people get change? How do we make sure the influence in the sales reps, the sales managers, or whoever it might be, that change has to happen? But what do we need to do to get buy-in from that? Because I think that's all part of that process as well.
Yeah, well, it's key, Jason, right? Because and I've seen this, right? Like, that buy-in starts with taking accountability and responsibility. And I've seen the worst and I've seen the best, right? And on the worst side, I've seen the manager come in and say, look, it's not my fault. This is what the directors have said. I don't know what to say to you. I'm really sorry. That doesn't show that you're commanding and leading your team, right? The first thing you do is say, look, we've agreed that it's 10%. This is going to be a challenge, but let's work together and let's figure this out as a team. I'm going to get stuck in with you, and we're going to lead this all the way through, and we're going to get there. Be confident. And that's one of the biggest things, sales. I don't need to tell you about what drives those people. Need to be motivated. They need to see you motivated. They work from that. And that is crucial, especially in sales, Jason, more than any other team in a business. They need to be motivated. And that starts with the manager. So there's a huge role to play on the sales manager or even sales director, whatever it is, about bringing them along that journey. And then, like, when you get salespeople motivated together, Jason, sometimes they can be difficult to get in the room together. But when you get that sweet spot, as I said last week, they are the best teams to work, because they know that once they can start visualizing it, that they can achieve this, there's no stopping them. That's the way they're motivated, Jason. And it's great to see. And so that starting point of getting that soft element right in the beginning is crucial.
I think so. It's the effective communication between the leaders for change and things going to be happening for a better purpose. So if it is a 10% increase, but maybe they have to start to think of, how much more revenue they're going to be making, and how much more commission that they might be making as well, if everything and all things are equal and the company's good and that. But I think within the strategy, when the likes of yourself and myself go in, I think there's some hard questions to be had with all of the leaders out there, because what they say and think and do in reality, when we get in there, is sometimes completely different.
Yeah.
And as you know, we have to sort of plan a strategy for ourselves to approach that in the correct way, so it's believable, it comes across credible, and they get their brand loyalty, and they get the uplift, and they get all of the buy-in as we spoke about before. But what else is there that we can possibly do? We looked at the positive sides, what actually happened last year, or the in the previous count. But let's have a look at the negative side. People don't like to speak about the negative side, but it's got to be spoken about in a positive sense. I think there's the saying, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. But sometimes we have to feed it forward. What did we learn? What can we do next time? And how can we improve? And I think we discussed that in detail, but I think that has to be accountable for
But
within this strategy.
absolutely, Jason. And you know what? I was just telling you earlier on, I was doing a root cause workshop earlier on today with a client. And one of my messages in it, to get to that root cause, we needed people to be honest and take accountability if something went wrong and it was in their area. So we I like, it's a term that I say, or a phrase I say is like, bomb the blame game and embrace the air culture. Everyone, if you can get those people being honest about what they felt they didn't do well, what they could improve on, what, just think about what you can do with that person then who's really honest. You're going to go, well, look, let me help you. And you mentioned training. I agree. I think training, there needs to be training. But at the end of the day, like I always say, you create your way of doing sales in a business, right? Your way.
Yeah,
You know, you have a standard template, but not at the sense that it becomes robotic, right? Because you need the flair of the individual, you know, but they need
absolutely.
to know, you need to know that you have to follow a baseline process
Mhm.
to ensure they know they gave that sale the best chance of getting over the line. So once you know that, Jason, then this feedback, and this is again about the accountability and honesty part, that you can do that feedback loop so well, because every
I think
stage
that.
goes,
Oh,
oh,
sorry, can I just jump in there? Because I get that, but I think that area of vulnerability and honesty needs to come from the top
of
down.
course.
All the salespeople can say what they like and the this, that, and the other, but it has to be from the top down. They have to show a little bit of vulnerability as well, and they have to show that maybe things didn't go right for their strategy either. Let's all bring it back together, and let's see what we can do together, and let's have a look at the air of what didn't go to plan, what didn't go right, but let's have a look at collectively how we can improve that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's like, all this stuff comes from the top, Jason, right? If you breed that into your team and the culture, everyone will come along. But it's like, it's not like do what I say, it's do what I do. Like it's
Yeah,
again, it's the same like as a kid. You say, don't press that red button. What do they want to do? Like Jason, we're all kids.
but
We
don't
all
run.
need
Yeah,
guidance. You know, we all
yeah,
need that leadership and vulnerability, integrity, you know, accountability. They're all rolled in. And as I said, I think in sales, anything customer facing, you want to
yeah.
make sure your teams, whether it's customer service, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whatever it is, branding, they're all ready to brand and be like an emblem for that business all the time. They're going to be a brand
Mhm.
ambassador because you've treated them that way.
Yeah, and they buy into the brand as well, so they
Mm.
live, breathe the brand, and they're an advocate even when they're
Yeah.
outside the business, because what you say in the business and what you say out the business can be two different things sometimes, probably depending on where they actually are and where how they actually believe in it. But we are talking about strategy today, and we are talking about the different facets of that as well. It's and we're talking about the we can be maybe we don't have time today, but I think the online stuff as well is equally important, and how you
Mm.
present yourself online, whether it's your website, but cohesively, that could also be how the reps and how people are presenting themselves on social media, likes of LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. But maybe it's more LinkedIn because that's the business frame,
Mm.
and how they present themselves in front of other people, if they're doing videos or if they're doing blogs or if they're doing something else, because that's all part and parcel of social selling. But that's also part, and that could be part of the strategy as well, and how they're presented within the organization, because that helps as well.
Of course, Jason. Like it's like if I only met you in a business environment, I only know you as the business persona of you. It's only one element of your personality. But nowadays, we want to be intimate. We want to know everything there is. So if I'm looking to do business with you, Jason, I'm not just going to take your word for it. I'm going to look you online. I'm going to look at your branding. I'm looking on if I can find reviews about you. I'm going to
Yeah.
do my research. We're in this age of information like symmetry like that. We don't have to rely on the salesperson,
Yeah.
to tell us about features and benefits. We can find that out there from by ourselves.
Yeah,
I want to know
exactly.
why I want to do business with you, and all that. And even if you talk about the different strategies like just branding, inbound marketing, you have to take a holistic approach, an integrated approach, because
Mm.
everything has to be saying the same message. Everything has to be aligned, because if there's one crook of that out going the wrong way, forget about it. You've lost trust.
Yeah. And I think that also goes in with that 10% as well, as we spoke
Mm.
before, because that really helps the perception of how you're perceived and how you're shown. So the online presence and how people are speaking, and how your sales professionals are speaking online as well should be equal to what the strategy is and aligned with everyone else. Because that will really help as well, because we're all seeing the same language. I worked with a company a while back, and their strategy online was, I'm going to like that, and oh, nothing's happening. Well, you're not really sharing any posts. You're not building up your own credibility by talking around the company, but
Mm.
not actually talking about the company. Just saying that you're an expert in what you do and what you've done and how you've applied that. And like, social proof is doing this online, and doing that so your clients and customers can actually see what you're doing. So it's there in front of everyone. You're not hiding anything. And you're also being a little
Mm.
bit, hopefully, you're being trustworthy and a bit humbled by what you're doing as well.
Yeah, no, and that's it. There's no place to hide, Jason. When you think of strategy, you have to, and again, because anything that you do from marketing, branding, online, offline, you have to realize you have to protect that. So it's not just about saying, yes, I'm going to do online stuff. You have to make sure you're protecting your brand first and
Yeah.
foremost when you do that stuff. And that's about brand integrity, how you talk to people, how you engage with people, what are the values and principles you as a company share with your teams to ensure they like embrace them and they are your advocates everywhere,
Mm.
because there's no hiding from anything anymore. You say one bad word, even in a networking event, and someone overhear you. I heard this guy from this business say this, and I lost faith in that. Like, it's just like, I was so glad, Jason, I grew up in the 90s and 80s where there was no Facebook or online stuff,
Me
because
too. Yeah, me too.
I've no history. No one can. Not that I did anything bad or anything, but my point is, people, you've got a digital identity, personally and from a business perspective. That has to be a part of your framework and your strategy. And if it is, you need to ensure how you're going to protect it and grow it.
Yeah. I think the last thing that we should mention, I think part and parcel of where some people go wrong, is you have to own your business, your sales business. I always like to give the analogy that they are all self-employed, and they're all self-generating their own income, regardless of the mothership that is there to support them and give them their basic wage and this, that, and the other, and the perks and the cars and or whatever else that they might get on top. But they have to take it into context. They have to be self-generating. They have to pay for their car. they have to pay for their commission, they have to pay for their basic wage, they have to pay for their mobile phones. It might be a perk, but you still have to pay it because your targets are this, and there is that as well on top. So break that down to make it you should be self-employed in your head anyway.
Yeah, no, agreed, Jason. And see, here's the thing: when you hire a new salesperson, that's a cost to you for at least 6 months until they start their waterfall drops and they start making money. So it's not, they're not an asset until they start making money. They're a liability, and you have to make sure you turn that liability into an asset, because the cost of sales is phenomenal, Jason. Yeah. It's a huge part, and that's again going back to these drivers. How can you reduce that cost of sales by 10% to get 10% more profits? And these are the things that you need to consider, and because there will be lull patches. If you, again, going back to the strategy, right? You need to know going into next year, what is your bread and butter? What can you can do to break even? And you secure that. You absolutely secure that. You predict it. And then it's like, okay, what else can we do? What should we pilot? What should we trial? Like, how can we do these sort of discount strategies, add an extra few cycles in, and what would they look like? And how do we present that to a marketplace? And start trialing and piloting a few new things. Some stuff won't stick, but you have to try it, Jason. Eventually, you'll find something. And if you're smart about it, if you're getting feedback, if you're smart about how you keep in touch with your customers, this should not be a shot in the dark. These should be calculated exercises that have a reasonably good chance of success. So they're the things, And the other thing I always like to say, right, you're doing all these things. I always like to say, well, tell me 10 top clients you would like to do business with. Tell me, like, these are the sort of the gold star, platinum level, and then you start like strategizing how, and they're different. It's a different process, Jason. I like to get the salespeople thinking about how would you go about it and work together. What's your strategy? What angle they're coming in? And it's like military precision, Jason. Like, you're coming from, how can you get someone's like a seed planted in somebody's mind, a director in some business, from different angles by different people, and eventually one person's going to go, yeah, do you know what? That company, I know that company. I like the sound of that.
I also have a lead in there. Or I can do a call into them, and it's a warm call as well. So as opposed to one of cold. I think we should actually cover some of that next week, actually, in this topic, because I love the way this. I think strategy is a big subject, but there's lots of different areas within that, which is definitely worth speaking about. So I think the synopsis really is to plan, and plan even a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, build your, plan the plan. You're right. Build your framework before you do any strategizing. Build your framework for the strategy, and then think about all the different areas within that you want to cover. Then start working on the strategy.
Awesome. Well, let's see everyone this time next week. Have a wonderful evening.
Have a wonderful evening. Great to chat again, Jason. See you soon.
All right. Take care.